Welcome to yet another edition of the. Sorry, we're in a little bit of a move. There's no poster. The Stats and Stacks podcast. For today, we're going over UFC Vegas 72, Song versus Simone. First things first, make sure you give this video a like, a subscribe. Go ahead and hit that follow over on Twitter, over on Instagram, over on TikTok, wherever there's social media. There is the Stats and Stacks podcast. Again, yeah, we're in the little bit of a move these next 2 weeks. A lot of stuff changing, a change of scenery, but we're still going to do the fight tape and we're still going to get the pod out because there's money to be made. I know it's been rough the last 2 weeks. We jinxed ourselves saying we never got a lock wrong to getting one of the two wrong in back to back cards. The one last week was a little controversial, but I mean, it is what it is. Shouldn't have been on it. I trusted a young kid. Shit happens. So at the end of the day, yeah, we're on a rough patch, but that's the way this game works. I mean, 4 months of just winning week after week after week, it's bound to catch up with you. It's the game we play, but it's the game we love and the game we're going to continue to play. It's a really, really small card this week, only 11 fights. And honestly, some of these are just thrown together. I think there's going to be a lot of unders that hit this card. It's going to be one of these where there's no name recognition, but well, all in all, might be a fun night of fights, and probably a lot of chalk, to be honest with you. So, without further ado, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna jump into this pretty low card here. We're going to start with the very, very first fight of the night. We are looking at Haley Cowan as now a plus 120 dog going up against Jamie Lynn Horth at minus 140. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 is minus 195. Under 2.5 plus 160. Cowan actually opened as the favorite, but all the money came in on Jamie Lynn. And let me tell you why. Because Haley Cowan kind of sucks, to be honest with you. I mean, she has okay wrestling to an extent, but she has two losses, and I'm pretty sure all of her losses come by sub. They do. And she got put in a bad situation in her last fight against a girl that, let's be honest with you, wasn't actually at this weight class. She just wanted to get into the UFC by any means necessary. So the girl is pretty decent, but she definitely fought up a weight class or two. Haley Cowan herself just isn't that good. You're going to hear the commentator team talk about how she was a gymnast. They loved it. There's certain people where they just talk about the same thing over and over and over. I guarantee you they're going to talk about her being a former gymnast. She's going to have a 2.5 inch reach advantage here, which is super nice. But her striking's not very good. Her jiu-jitsu's not very good, and her wrestling is although she tries to use it, it's kind of lackluster. So at the end of the day, she's not very good. She slows down in her fights, to be honest with you. There's nothing to really like about her, to be honest with you. And her last few fights, she actually has had some weight cutting issues. I know the Vidal fight, it was on Vidal's side where she withdrew. But on this particular one before that against Eileen Perez, she was the one that had weight cutting issues. So not only is she not good, she struggles to get down to try to bully you. It kind of compromises her and what might have to do with her slowing down in some of her fights. On the flip side, Jamie's not the greatest in the world, and honestly, she's gonna be the smaller girl here. But they gave her a call, said, "Do you want to fight in the UFC?" And she said, "Absolutely." And honestly, Jamie's just a dog, man. She's 5-0. All five of her wins are by finish, which is an anomaly in women's MMA. And she'll switch it up. She'll knock you out. She'll tap you out. She kind of, when I think about her, everyone's going to talk about her Makayev moment. We looked at Muhammad Makayev when he was in a knee bar, and basically we saw all his ligaments tearing, and he refused to tap, and then went out there and continued to get the finish. That's kind of what she did in her last fight in LFA. She went out there, she got put in a really, really bad situation. Her knee basically snapped. She refused to tap, and then got up and finished the opponent with a rear naked choke. So she's got that dog in her. She is going to fight for your money. Is she particularly good? No, her striking's okay. Her cardio is good. Her perseverance is good. Her jujitsu's okay, and her wrestling is it's all right. But at the end of the day, because of that Makayev moment, She also hasn't fought in 2 years because of that, because she had the rehab and then she had to find a fight. So, although I love that she's a dog and she's willing to fight for my money, she has not fought in 2 years. It's her UFC debut, basically up a weight class at 33 years old. So, yeah, I at the end of the day, I'm going to choose her because I think all in all, she has the better skill set, and I know she's going to fight for me. But do I trust her at minus 140? No. Do I trust the over under with her finishing all of these fights? Honestly, no. So it's really going to be her or pass. I loved her as a dog, but now that she's the favorite, it's better to just pass. But the pick is going to be Jamie. The bet is going to be Jamie. All right. Next fight of the night. Sorry, I got to look up the odds here because it is a replacement. There are two fights that got replaced real quickly. We have Journey Newsom at minus 190 going up against Marcus McGahee at plus 160. I don't have an over under as this fight was announced like today. And I'll be honest with you, I haven't really done any research on Marcus McGahee. I honestly didn't get a chance. I know based on his Tapology page, he's a little older. All of his wins are by knockout, so he's predominantly a striker. He's 32 years old. I do like that he trains at the MMA lab, so he's going to be the local kid. And they have some killers at the MMA lab. And the other thing is that this fight is at 135. So all of those killers at MMA lab are in his weight class. So every day he's training with Sugar Sean O'Malley. He's training with Mario Batista. He's training with Kyler Phillips. And I mean, if he's rolling around with these guys every single day, obviously some of it's going to rub off on them. And when you look at his record, again, all of his wins are by finish and they're all by KO. So he obviously fancies himself a striker. He has one career loss on his record. It was by submission. Might be his weak spot. Not really know what MMA lab is known for, our subs. It's not their forte. So that kind of makes sense there. On the flip side, Journey Newsom submissions are his forte because he is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, although you never see it. The reason you don't see it is because he can't really wrestle too well. He's one of these guys that like to strike. If you take it down, he's comfortable, but he doesn't like scare me on the ground. He's one of these black belts that I'm not scared of. It might have just been given to him a little too soon, to be honest with you. He's going to be at a 3-inch reach disadvantage. The advantage actually goes to Marcus McGahee, which is nice. On the flip side, he's going to have his striking's all right. It's not the best. He has a good kicking game. His boxing's just okay, but he has a good kicking game. I wouldn't say he's chinny at all, but he does have a few knockouts on his record. He's just a very, very kick-heavy guy, but he's rocking 43% takedown defense and very low volume. I was all over Brian Boone Kelleher because Kelleher puts on a singlet when he fights someone that can't wrestle. And sure enough, I was hoping he would come out and just grapple fuck Journey Newsom. But now we have Journey going up against a striker. And I don't know enough about Marcus's wrestling game to decipher where this fight is going to take place. I just think that Marcus is going to come in knowing that he's on short notice, probably doesn't have the best cardio in the world. So he's just going to come out and try to nuke him, to be 100% honest with you. Is he going to be able to do so? I don't know. I mean, Journey's been knocked out before. And Marcus fought just about 3 months ago, so he's had some time to heal here. But how is his weight cut going to look, taking this fight on a week's notice, less than a week's notice? I don't know. There's a lot of question marks. Can I trust Journey Newsom? Absolutely not. Can you trust Marcus McGahee? Absolutely not. So what I'll probably go for is the under here. The over-under isn't posted yet, but if they give me a decent number on the under 2.5, that's the way I'm going to go. So the pick is going to be, I guess, the vet and Journey Newsom, but the bet's probably going to be the under, to be honest with you. It could be Newsom by sub, or it could be McGahee by just going out there. And I don't know. My gut is telling me McGahee goes out there. He knows he has nothing to lose, and he's going to go out there and just bomb on him. So maybe he catches him. It wouldn't be the first time. So, I'm going to go ahead and flip. Why not? I don't trust either one of these guys. Give me the under, but I'll go ahead. I'll pick Marcus, and I'll bet the under. Unless it's a really, really bad number, then maybe I'll take a shot on McGahee after I do more research. All right, next fight of the night. We have Irina Alexiva at plus 255 going up against Stephanie Ager at minus 305 now. The line keeps growing. Over 2.5 at minus 150, under 2.5 at plus 120. I was happy to get Stephanie Ager at minus 275 because this line keeps going towards her. She is good wrestling. She's a judo black belt, credentialed judo black belt. Her jiu-jitsu's top notch, a ton of arm bars. I mean, these judo girls are nasty on the ground, especially with their arm bars. Her cardio checks out. She's definitely fought the better people. I mean, Myra Bueno Silva's pretty decent. She fought Jessie Rose Clark, which is Ellen Perez is Tracy Cortez is good. She dismantled Shayna Young. She's doing everything she's supposed to do, to be quite frank with you. All in all, her striking is it's improving. I do see constant improvement. It's still not good, but luckily she's fighting someone with no striking either. And Egger's going to be the one with the 2-inch reach advantage. So neither one can strike. Egger's a pretty good grappler on the ground, and she has pretty decent judo to get you down there. On the flip side with Alexiva, I don't really know why she's in the UFC, to be 100% honest with you. She's only 4-1. She calls herself the Russian Ronda, which I absolutely hate. I think that's one of the worst nicknames I've ever heard in my life. She comes over from Bellator. Bellator said, she's not very impressive. We don't want to sign her. And she's usually a 145-pound fighter. This fight is going to be at 135, so make sure you keep an eye on her. She tried to make 125 in Bellator and missed weight by 5 pounds, so I don't know what her management team was thinking. But this one's at 135, so make sure you keep an eye on her at weigh-ins. And as I had mentioned, her striking's not very good at all either. She's very inexperienced. She's only 4-1. She has some sort of sambo credential where she's like a sambo world champ. So on paper, she should be able to wrestle and grapple a little bit, but she's not very good anywhere. From the fights I saw, she sucks. She slows down. She gasses out in her fights, and she's just not good. She's trying to be a can crusher, fighting girls with 0-0, 0-2, 5-5. 6-6-2, and then her best win was against Stephanie Page, who was 5-2. And again, not even the same weight class. She usually fights at 145. That fight was at 125, and she missed weight by 5 pounds. So she has no credible wins on her record whatsoever. And she's going to get Stephanie, who actually might be the bigger girl, has fought the better girls. I know heavyweight and women's MMA you're just supposed to stay away from, but this Alexiva is not UFC caliber. And she's making her debut. I don't understand. She also hasn't fought in 2 years. So she hasn't fought in 2 years, making her debut, and she was already bad. And it's not like she's young and improving. She's 32 years old. So I'm out. You can't realistically bet her at all. So we're gonna bet Eager. We're gonna pick Eager, and we might end up locking Stephanie Eager. All right. Next fight of the night is another one that was thrown together. So I have to pull these lines up for you. Again, we're not going to have that over under, but it's just like the other fight that was short notice. I'm going to take just whatever the under is on this one as well. We have Josh Quinlan at only minus 180 going up against Trey Waters at plus 155. Let's start with Josh Quinlan because I don't really know what to think of him. Let me pull it up on here. I'm just going to go a little out of order here just to get these that don't have lines out of the way. Josh Quinlan, I mean, his striking's pretty good. He hits extremely hard. He's one of these guys from Contender Series, and he's a finisher. Every single one of his wins are by finish. And it's not just knockout. He has 2 submission wins on his record, and one of them came in the 3rd round, so I like to see that a ton. So his cardio is what's in question. All of these round 1 KOs, does he have the cardio to go? I mean, he has a round 3 submission. Now, don't get me wrong. He has a round 3 knockout as well, and both of those are the 2 fights right before he got popped for PEDs. So he's someone that was on the gear before, so that's a little concerning. That's why he didn't have his fight for a year after winning in the Contender Series. He had to face a suspension for cheating because he was literally on steroids. So is that the only reason he's nuking people? I don't know. He fought Jason Witt, who is notoriously the worst chin in the welterweight division history, and he knocked him out in the 1st round. So yeah, of course, whether you're on the shit or not, you're gonna knock out Jason Witt. So I don't know. At the end of the day, he does have good wrestling and BJJ on paper. He is credentialed. You don't really see it at all because now he's just going out there and nuking people. So he's going to look the same with steroids and without steroids. I don't know. Good news for him is that he's fighting Trey Waters. And Trey Waters, first of all, I'm not sure this fight happens because Trey Waters is a massive welterweight. Trey Waters is going to have a 5-inch reach advantage in this matchup. And honestly, I'm surprised that that's all the number is. I thought it would be even more than that. He has pretty decent striking, and he's a finisher in his own right. He's 7-1, and his only loss is against the Bonfim brother, one of the Bonfim brothers on the Contender Series, the youngest one, Gabriel. And there's no shame in that because Gabriel's very good. My problem with Trey Waters is that he's extremely hittable, and he's massive. So I don't know if he's going to make the weight. There has to be some sort of catch weight, but I don't know. Even that, he's not going to make. He's too big to take this fight on a week's notice. And he's so goddamn hittable. He fights with his hands low. Someone had compared him to Bobby Green. I think that's a perfect comparison. That's the way he tries to fight. Only difference is Bobby Green dodges and rolls with punches. Trey Waters just tries to eat it, and someone's going to put his lights out. I know Bonfreen choked him out, and his jiu-jitsu is not very good. So if Quinlan wanted to go that route, I'd understand that. I don't even hate the sub prop for Quinlan, to be honest with you, because he only has 3 losses on his record, if you include amateur, and they're all by sub. So submissions are definitely his weak point, but he keeps his hands very low and he's very hittable. He's explosive and he's fun to watch on the feet. He can put your lights out, but you can also, I feel like, put his out. So the pick is going to be Quinlan. The bet's going to be Quinlan. You're getting a good price at -180, but neither one are dependable, to be honest with you. So I like the under a lot more. But if that under is juice to the tits, don't bet that. I would just end up taking Quinlan because -180 is pretty much a steal for you. All right. Next fight of the night. We're going to go back where we were here. We have Cody Durden as a +125 dog going up against Charles Johnson at -145. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 -210. Under 2.5 +170. Let's start with Cody Durden because I think Cody Durden sucks. He has decent wrestling. That's about it. Jiu-jitsu, not the greatest. He just tries to backpack you. His stand-up, I know he has a knockout over JP Bays on his record. It's not very good. He's not generally a potent power puncher, and when he's on the feet, doesn't look comfortable at all. He's not a great striker. And you're going to talk about sometimes you see him slowing down in fights, sometimes you don't. Does he actually have a bad gas tank? I think it's contingent on how much he has to work. If he's fighting someone that's going to make him go a hard 15 minutes, he's going to gas out. If he's fighting someone that's going to continually just get taken down and he's able to rest on top, then he'll be perfectly fine. The problem with him is that he's fighting the latter. He's fighting the first, actually. The guy's nickname is Charles Energy Johnson. Like, he is known for his cardio. Don't get me wrong. I know his cardio looked absolutely terrible in his last fight, but I still think he got robbed, and I thought he won that fight, even when he did gas out in the third. And all these short notice fights were just kind of taking a toll on him. You can only do that so much. This is about to be like he got signed last year and he's had 1, 2, 3, 4. This is about to be his 5th UFC fight in like 10 months. Like, it's insane. I don't understand. He fights every other month. It doesn't make any sense. Every 2 months, this man is literally in the octagon. So he needs to give his body a break, to be honest with you. You can definitely see him breaking down. But he does have good striking, and even a tired or hurt Charles Johnson is going to have better striking than Cody Durden. His cardio is his biggest weapon. He uses that thing to the fullest. His takedown defense, it's weird. It's not good. It's not bad. But when he does get taken down, he does not settle. He does not accept bottom position. He pops right back up. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage here. And he likes to move forward a lot. So if you're backing up, it has a tendency to slow you down. If you have to continually wrestle, it has a tendency to slow you down. At the end of the day, I think Charles Johnson's biggest strengths are Cody Durden's biggest weaknesses, and vice versa, to be honest with you. But one is he's a little more fine-tuned than the other. So the pick is going to be Charles Johnson. The bet's going to be Charles Johnson. I don't like betting strikers against grapplers, but in this instance, the cardio plays the biggest role for me. So pick is Johnson, bet is Johnson. Next fight of the night, we have another sloppy heavyweight fight. And I think I am going to take the dog on this one. We have Martin Boudet at minus 105 going up against Jake Collier at minus 115. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 minus 135. Under 2.5 plus 105. Let's start with Martin Boudet because he's not good. Don't get me wrong. Am I going to bet him? Yes. Do I think he's good? Fuck no. His striking's okay. His cardio checks out, surprisingly. He loves the pressure forward, and he's durable as all hell. He's going to be very, very hard to put away. He likes to pressure you up against the cage, but he doesn't generally get the takedown. He's one of these guys that just hold you there for control. At the end of the day, there's not a lot to write home about him. I can't tell if he has power or not. It's a little wishy washy. But I don't know, man. He's just not very good, but if you give him a scrub, he'll be able to go out there and get the job done. I don't think Jacob Collier is a scrub by any means, but I also know he's not a true heavyweight. I mean, look at him. He's a former middleweight. You're going to hear that over and over and over. But he does have good volume for a heavyweight because even though he put on weight, excuse me, he still fights like he's a middleweight. His jiu-jitsu is okay. His wrestling's okay. His striking's pretty decent, in all honesty. He's a little chinny, and that's mostly because he's just getting hit by stuff he's not supposed to because he's in the wrong weight class. And his cardio, I saw it, he usually slows down quite a bit, but he completely gassed against Huggy Bear in his last fight. It's the most I've ever seen him gas there. Andre Arlovski, he slowed down, but I think he still kept going. Same with Chase Sherman, he went out there and destroyed. Philippe, he slowed down, but he kept going. Same with Jean Vellante. So at the end of the day, I think he's a pretty decent fighter. I think he's just in the wrong weight class. He has really high volume for heavyweight, which is nice. But we're looking at damage this day and age. And honestly, it doesn't matter how good of a wrestler you are, how much volume put out there. The refs seem to just be judging who hits harder, basically. And I think in that instance, it's Martin Boudet. So I would say the pick is going to be Boudet. The bet is going to end up being Boudet. All righty. And then we have the next fight of the night. We have Waldo Cortez Acosta at plus 155, going up against Marcos Rogerio de Lima at minus 180. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 at minus 150. Under 1.5 at plus 120. Let's go ahead and start with Waldez Acosta because I think I'm going to take the dog here too. His striking's pretty good. His cardio's decent. He's gonna have a 3-inch reach advantage here. He throws a ton of volume. Problem with him is that he's super inexperienced and he doesn't check leg kicks at all. Like he just refuses to do so for whatever reason. I don't think he really has a ground game. He's not really tested in the wrestling, but I know Chase Sherman took him down, so that's not a good look. Ultimately, he's just a heavyweight with a ton of volume. Not a ton of power, just a ton of volume. Not overly impressive. But on the flip side, this just like Jake Collier, we have someone that's not a true heavyweight. Marcus Rogerio de Lima spent most of his fighting career up or down at 205. Decided he doesn't want to cut weight anymore. He went up to heavyweight. Don't get me wrong, he hits like an absolute truck at heavyweight, but he's also 37 years old at this point. American Top Team is nice, but he has no cardio. He will mix in wrestling, but it gasses him. So if Waldo just pops back up, he's not going to be able to continue to do it. He uses heavy leg kicks, which are super nice. He does everything that Waldo Acosta struggles with, to be honest with you. He is a black belt somehow. He loves to pressure forward and swing heavies. He's not the worst fighter in the world. It's just he's 37 years old. He has no cardio. His chin is all right, but you don't want to trust a 37-year-old with no cardio, no volume up a heavyweight. So I don't like either guy. I don't want to bet either guy, but this is a sheer dogger pass. So you can't give me plus 155 with a true heavyweight going against someone that is a true light heavyweight. Yeah, give me the real heavyweight. So the pick is going to be Waldo. The bet's going to be Waldo. next fight of the night, it's a weird one. We have Juicy J, Julian Erosa, minus 150, going up against Fernando Padilla at plus 130. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 plus 130, under 2.5 minus 160. Let's go ahead and start with Padilla. My problem with Padilla is that he's a okay striker. He's definitely getting better. We just haven't seen him fight in 2 years. So there's a lot of 2 year layoffs on these debuts for whatever reason. He's only 26 years old, so he's still super young. He definitely could have been improving in that time. He has sick jujitsu. It's very, very aggressive. It's definitely position over submission over position. And when he's on his back, he's just throwing stuff up nonstop. Kind of reminds me of like a Brandon Royval just throwing stuff up left and right. He's very tall and lanky and will have a 2.5 inch reach advantage here. The problem with him is that his wrestling is god awful. Like, if I think I could take this guy down, he cannot stop a takedown to save his life. So that's not going to cut it on the regional scene. And if it's not cutting on the regional scene, it is not going to cut it in the UFC. On the flip side, he's fighting Juicy J, who is not a wrestler by nature, but he can wrestle a little bit. He'll throw it in from time to time. He's predominantly a striker, though. Pressure forward and just punches and bunches and just break you down. That's all he wants to do. He wants to wear on you until you can't handle anymore. He has really high volume. He has good jiu-jitsu, loves the pressure, good striking. His only problem is that he is one of the worst chins I've ever seen. He cannot take a punch to save his life. His last fight, he got knocked out by Alex Caceres, who officially has like 2 knockouts in the history of the UFC. And one of them was by like a cut doctor stoppage. So it doesn't even count. So Alex Caceres has only knocked out 1 man in the UFC, and his name is Juicy J. Juicy J, it would be a top 10 guy if he had a chin, but he just simply does not. He never will. Can Padilla find it? Yeah, he definitely could. Could Juicy J go out there and give him a vet lesson and just grapple his ass? Yeah, he could. Which one are we going to see? I really want to say dog or pass. But I'm going to side with the vet lesson. So the pick is going to be Juicy J. The bet's going to end up being Juicy J, but I don't feel good about it. The pick is going to be Juicy J. The bet's going to be Padilla. It's a dog or pass when it comes to money. All right, next fight of the night is one that I don't like this fight at all, honestly. It's Cody Brundage at plus 200 going up against Rodolfo Vieira at minus 240. Over under set at 1.5. Over 1.5 minus 115. Under 1.5 also minus 115. Straight pick 'em. The Black Belt Hunter is definitely one of the best nicknames in MMA, but he's not one of the best fighters. His wrestling's okay. His striking is non-existent, but his jiu-jitsu is world-class. His gas tank is world-class bad. Like, it's very, very, very bad. And he really struggles with weigh-ins. He's always the last one to weigh in, and he petrifies you. He scares the shit out of you. And when he has a bad weight cut, he acts like it. He comes in and he just gasses even harder. So definitely watch how he's looking at weigh-ins. He's 33 years old, so it's going to start to affect him a little more. But again, this guy's bread and butter is his jiu-jitsu. If he gets you down to the ground, you're toast, basically. On the flip side, we have Cody Brundage, who is training at Factory X Muay Thai, which I like for his stand-up here. But he's a wrestler by nature. How does he win his fights? He takes you down and he submits you. He's not going to do that to the Black Belt Hunter. I promise you he's not going to tap out the Black Belt Hunter unless Vieira is just that gassed. But we saw Vieira's gas tank looked fine in his last fight against Chris Curtis. I mean, Chris Curtis stuffed 20 takedowns, and Vieira was able to still stay in there. So he definitely worked on his cardio. Neither one of these guys can strike. Cody might be the better striker, but it's by the slimmest of margins. Neither one can strike. Neither one hits particularly hard. Cody is slowed down in some of his fights. You saw him against Max. Oh God, what is his name? Maximoff. Nick Maximoff, he went in and slowed down. He did take the fight on short notice, but he's also been rocked a lot. Has he been put out all the time? No. But Olean Chaychuk put him out. William Knight put him out. And I mean, Trayshawn Gore rocked him. Dolce rocked him. He's a little chinny, to be quite honest with you. His jiu-jitsu's fine, but we're not even going to talk about that when it comes to the Black Belt Hunter. So it's a matter of who dictates where this fight goes. I don't know. Is Cody going to be able to stuff all of Rodolfo's takedowns? He could, possibly. Rodolfo went 0 of 20 against Chris Curtis, but I don't know if Cody Brundage's takedown defense is quite Chris Curtis. It's actually a surprisingly low number. And if Rodolfo gets him done once, that may be all it takes. So the pick is going to be Black Belt Hunter. The belt's going to be Black Belt Hunter, Rodolfo. All right. Next fight of the night. We are looking at the co-main event. We have Kyle Baralho at minus 360 going up against Michael Oli and Jace Chuck at plus 295. Over under set at 2.5. Over 2.5 plus 125. Under 2.5 minus 155. Let's start with Fight Nerd Kyle. I love Kyle. I think Kyle's really good, and I think the Fight Nerd name is appropriate. Excluding the glasses and excluding the neck tattoo, the man fights the most strategic fights we've ever seen. He has pretty good striking. It's very Lyoto Machida-esque karate-based style, lunges in and out, straight jabs, and just an explosive guy on the feet. On the mat is his bread and butter, though. He is someone that has trained extensively with Damian Maia, and he's very, very, very good on the ground. It's good jiu-jitsu, and his wrestling's pretty solid. He's a pretty solid blast double. It's not the most technical thing in the world, but he knows that he's an athletic specimen, and he's just going to overpower you if he times it right, and he seems to get it over and over and over. So his wrestling, check. Jiu-jitsu, check. Striking, check. Cardio, it's all right. It's not bad. Check. Volume low, very, very, very low volume, but he is the definition of position versus submission. He's not just going to go and try to tap you out right away. He's going to make sure he slaps on that body triangle and that you go nowhere. He will sit there an entire round if he has to. On the flip side, Mike Oli and Jay Shuck does not have good jiu-jitsu at all. In fact, I mean, Cody Brundage had his back for quite some time before he knocked him out. And Jimmy Crute went out there and dominated this man on the ground right away. It did not take long. His jiu-jitsu is probably his biggest weakness. His wrestling, 43% takedown defense. So if you're going to have bad jiu-jitsu, hopefully you have a good takedown defense, and he doesn't. So that's very concerning. He pressures you, though, like crazy. He moves forward, and he's undefeated at middleweight. He used to fight at light heavyweight. He had some bad bounces. Dustin Jacoby beat him. Jimmy Crute beat him. I mean, these are good light heavyweights. OSP, that one's questionable, but he lost to some pretty decent competition. But he has wins there. He has some wins at light heavyweight, but someone told him, dude, if you make middleweight, you can make a run. And I agree. I think he can beat a lot of middleweights here. He has good striking, all that pressure, just high volume. Like his cardio isn't the greatest, but it looks like it's been improving. He's not the worst fighter in the world, to be honest with you. He's just going up against the Fight Nerd, and if anyone's going to know how to attack you, it's going to be the Fight Nerd. So pick is going to be Kyle. Bet's going to be Kyle. High odds, so you're going to have to parlay him. And that takes us to the main event. If you haven't already, make sure you give a follow, give a like, give a follow over on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, wherever there's social media. There is a Stats and Stack podcast. We have Sonya Dong at minus 105, going up against Ricky Simone at minus 115. Over under set at 4.5. Over 4.5 plus 110. Under 4.5 minus 140. I don't know why the over is plus money if we have Ricky Simone as the favorite, but it's irrelevant because I'm going to go ahead with I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's start with Song Yadong with the dog. Very good striking, only 25 years old. And it's scary because when he got to the UFC, he was like 20. And he's fought who's who. He's fought Marlon Vera. He fought Corey Sandhagen, Casey Kenny, Julio Arce, Marlon Moraes. He's fighting the who's who of the weight class. So it's not like he had anything easy. Kyler Phillips. At the end of the day, a 71% takedown defense. His cardio was very, very good in the last fight in his first 5-round main event before the doctor stoppage. He was 2-2 with Corey Sandhagen, so that's a huge feather in his cap before the doctor had to step in. But again, that's my concern. Doctor stoppage aside, he has a loss to Kyler Phillips because he got grounded. I don't like that. His wrestling seems to be his only Achilles heel. Does he have terrible takedown defense? No, but if you continue to chain it together, you can get him down eventually, and he does seem to struggle there. On the flip side, he's fighting Ricky Simone, who is predominantly a wrestler. All he wants to do is take you down. Ricky's gonna have a 3-inch reach advantage here, but his striking is his Achilles heel. So they're both best where the other guy is not very good. Ricky Simone seems to have very good cardio, but we've never seen him in a 5 round fight. So will he be able to chain grapple for 5 rounds? I honestly I have no idea. I, we're gonna find out together. His jiu-jitsu's fine. I want to say he's a purple or a brown belt. He's not a black belt, but he has a few submissions on his wins, and he's decent down there. I mean, he tapped out Jack Shore, who's a black belt. He has quite a few submission wins on his record. My problem with Ricky Simone is I've seen him dropped a few times, and he's never fought a power puncher. The one that hit the hardest, to be honest with you, out of people he fought was Uriah Faber, and Uriah Faber is old. He was not supposed to lose that fight. He fought Rob Font, who I guess hits decently hard, but again, he only has 3 career losses, and they're all to pretty decent guys. All of them have been in the UFC at one point or are still in the UFC. He has some good wins. Ray Borg, Brian Kelleher, Jack Shore, Rafael Assunção. It's just, although they're good wins, they're not the best people in the world. His best win is Marab, and that was one of the weirdest finishes I've ever seen in my life. I don't know if he actually won that fight. That thing is still controversial to this day. I'm not going to go into detail about that fight, but it was a really weird one. So I'm Montel Jackson is a good win. I'm very just confused to do what to do with Ricky Simone. So I don't know. I'm gonna go ahead and pick Ricky Simone to win, but if I have money, it's gonna be straight dog or pass with Yadong. I think they're gonna be ready. They've trained for Ricky Simone before because Uriah Faber is Song Yadong's main training teacher. Like that, Song Yadong is literally Uriah Faber's pupil, and Uriah went out there and knocked out Simone in 40 seconds. So they're going to try to do it again, see if Lightning can strike twice, and maybe he'll be the new rival of Team Alpha Male. So at the end of the day, the pick is going to be Simone. The bet is going to be a dong, straight dog or pass, and that is UFC Vegas 72. Sorry, it was a little rushed. Not a lot of fights on there. A lot of ones that got replaced week of. Wasn't able to do a ton of fight tape. It's going to be a pretty risky week, but we lost locks. I was going to lock Natan Levy. That fight fell through. I was going to lock Brian Kelleher. That fight fell through. So this whole fight card is a mess, but it looks like a violent card, to be honest with you. So although you don't know all the names, the action could be fun. So at the end of the day, as long as you have fun watching it and you win money, that's what we're here to do. Let's get it, baby.